지금부터 본격적인 세션을 시작하겠습니다. 첫 번째 발표인데요. 국제도서관협회연맹 도나쉬더 차기 회장님께서 빅데이터 시대 국립도서관 동향, 도전, 그리고 기회라는 주제로 기조연설을 해주시겠습니다. 큰 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
Well, good afternoon to Dr. Lim, to the distinguished panelists, and to all of the honored guests and colleagues. It is an honor and a privilege to address this distinguished group on such an auspicious occasion. The topic you have chosen is an important one when thinking about the opportunities and challenges for national libraries. Today, I will discuss this topic in the context of the IFLA Trend Report and make some observations on the potential roles for national libraries in the era of big data. The IFLA Trend Report was created in 2013. In order to look at national libraries in the era of big data, it is important to understand the societal trends that have shaped our age. So in 2013, the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, IFLA, launched Riding the Waves or Caught in the Tide, the IFLA Trend Report. The Trend Report represents an effort to identify key trends in society that are having an impact on libraries and library professionals and the people that they serve. Before I discuss these trends, though, I would like to tell you a bit about the Trend Report itself and how it was developed. So between November of 2012 and July of 2013, a number of components were drawn together to develop the Trend Report. In November 2012, IFLA commissioned a comprehensive literature review, surveying recent studies, of which there were many, many, and reports on emerging trends. So this was completed in January of 2013. In February and March of 2013, a panel of 10 key experts prepared submissions based on these materials and participated in a round of table meeting in Mexico City. In May and June, the experts continued to discuss and expand on the trends via the online discussion forum with input invited from a wider pool of experts. And finally, in July, all of these different resources were drawn together to produce the web platform and Riding the Waves or Caught in the Tide insights from the IFLA Trend Report. To give you an idea of how diverse the people were who contributed to this, I'll mention 2 or 3 of the experts that IFLA called upon. One was Olivier Crepin-Leblond, who is the chairman of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, at-large advisory committee. Mariam Jameh is the CEO of Spot One Global Solutions. Louis Zaccaria is a co-founder of Global Intelligent Community Forum. So you can see that we reached outside the library world to different viewpoints on the impact, particularly of technology. So all of the names of the expert contributors are in the Trend Report, and I actually urge you to visit www.ifla.org. Click on the Trend Report symbol on the front page, and you, too, will be able to access this information. I think we have had the Trend Report translated into Korean, so it will be accessible to you. The 5 key trends. The report identifies 5 key trends, each of which has the potential to have either a positive or a negative effect on society in general and on libraries in particular. For strategic planning purposes, they can be seen as both challenges and opportunities for libraries. Trends represent change. There are some basic generalities about change that I would like to mention here before I talk about some of the specific trends that have been identified in the Trend Report. We know change is a constant. Change happens faster than ever before. And this one is very important. It is better for an organization to lead its own changes than to have ones imposed upon them by others. And this is particularly true in our world, where technology is disrupting all kinds of economic sectors, including publishing, government, and academic institutions. Fourth, the best time to initiate change is before you have to. And 5, to deal with change successfully, you do not have to like it, but you have to accept it. So the message here is to think about all of the changes that are happening around us and to make sure that we in the library community position our profession and our libraries for success in the future by figuring out how to address these challenges as opportunities. So what I'd like to talk to you today is about these societal trends briefly. The first is that new technology will expand access to information, but also present barriers. This trend considers the ever-expanding digital universe that will bring a higher value to information literacy skills. However, the nature of new online business models will heavily influence who can successfully own, profit from, share, or access information content in the future. The second is online learning will transform and disrupt traditional education. The rapid global expansion in available online education resources will make opportunities more abundant, cheaper, and more accessible. But what does this mean for academic and other libraries? And there are many examples, at least in other countries that I know of, and probably some here as well, where public libraries and maybe the National Library are jumping in to provide gathering places for students who are in online courses to come together to discuss, to use the resources of the library. So this trend can be a positive change for libraries. 3, boundaries on data protection and privacy will be redefined. Expanding data sets held by governments and companies will support the advanced profiling of individuals, while sophisticated methods of monitoring and filtering communications data will make tracking those individuals cheaper and easier. And all you need to do is do a search online about something, and the next time you go online, watch the ad for a company that does what you're searching for pop up on the side. So we know we are being tracked in many ways. And what is the answer to balance our privacy with the benefits of the internet? Hyper-connected societies will recognize and empower new voices. More opportunities for collective action are realized in hyper-connected societies, enabling the rise of new voices and single-issue political movements. Open government initiatives and access to public sector data, and I'm going to underline that, public access to public sector data, part of what we're talking about here today, will lead to more transparency and citizen-focused public services. Social media allows for rapid communication and citizen participation, and the Arab Spring was just one example of that. The 5th trend, finally, is our global information economy will be transformed by new technologies. Proliferation of hyper-connected mobile devices, network sensors and appliances, and infrastructure, 3D printing, and language translation technologies will transform the global information economy. Existing business models across many industries will experience creative disruption. So, what are the opportunities for national libraries in an era of increasing importance of big data? Let's talk for a minute about the increasing importance of big data. These trends have particular changes for national libraries, and for the purposes of this presentation, I would like to highlight 2 opportunities they present. New technology is creating massive data sets every day that can be used in such areas as business, government, health, and education. According to Wikipedia, quote, "Big data is a term applied to data sets whose size is beyond the ability of commonly used software to capture, manage, and process the data within a tolerable elapsed time. Big data sizes are a constantly moving target, ranging from a few dozen terabytes to many petabytes of data in a single data set. And that's the end of the quote. So according to Mike Furlow, an authority on this at Penn State University libraries in the United States, he says that big data is being collected at a rate that is surpassing traditional analytical methods due to the constantly expanding ways in which data can be created and mined. So it's expanding as fast, and the ways that we can create things that we can do with it is expanding even faster. Faculty in all disciplines are increasingly creating and or incorporating big data into their research, and institutions are creating repositories to manage it all. He goes on to observe that there are many challenges to effectively manage and curate this data, challenges that are both similar and different to managing document archives. Libraries can and are assuming key roles in making this information more useful, visible, and accessible, such as creating taxonomies, designing metadata schemes, and systematizing retrieval methods. Data is a form of information which many governments see as the key to future development. The welcome message on the National Library website by Chief Executive Dr. Lin states, quote, "The National Library of Korea strongly believes that knowledge and information is one of the most significant resources for national development." And that's the end of the quote. According to a May 2013 report in ZDNet, the Korean government announced the establishment of a center to serve as a testbed for big data-related businesses and as a means to foster researchers at university. A ministry official stated that, quote, "We're planning to create a basic solution so that anyone can use our service to analyze big data." In the United States, the Obama administration has issued a report from the Executive Office of the President in May 2014 called "Big Data, Seizing the Opportunities, Preserving Values." On May 9th, 2013, the President signed an open data executive order that launched a new open data catalog on a data management system. So these are just two examples of two governments recognizing the value of big data as it applies to moving society forward, moving health forward, moving education and science forward. What role, then, can national libraries play in supporting national policies to use big data to solve societal problems, improve well-being, and generate economic prosperity? National libraries can play several roles to further these efforts that are basically extensions of what they already do. I will talk about two: libraries as collectors, preservers, and disseminators of big data sets, and the second, which is really interesting, as libraries as creators of big data. National libraries as collectors, preservers, and dissemination of big data. The first is to identify and acquire data sets, whether they're from the government or other sources, such as research projects funded by the government. There is much activity around the building of repositories, but a repository is merely a storage site. Libraries are much more than containers of information. So what are these other functions that libraries perform that add value to the data sets being created every day? Libraries organize information, curate it, describe the materials, preserve their collections, and most importantly, provide access, which includes helping others to use them. So one of the things that distinguishes a library over a repository is the people in the library that are there to learn what the users need and to help them reach their goals and find the information and do the research that they need. Libraries organize information, describe the materials, preserve their collections, and provide access. There are two functions where libraries can do the most to produce added values. First, providing user services, and the second is digital preservation. The most important user service is to provide access. That means finding and hiring librarians who understand the contents of the data collections, who can catalog the data in code books and add metadata, and providing tools that allow the user to download and manipulate the data. And the providing of tools is no different than what the Korean National Library does now in terms of providing tools for people to use audio and video material from the library, and then to take those tools and create their own audio, their own music, their own videos. So in the future world, in the era of big data, there will be a place in this library where researchers come to use data sets, and there will be a bank of places with visualization tools, with economic modeling tools, with all the state-of-the-art things that researchers will need in order to create new knowledge from existing data. That's my dream for the Korean library. There are a wide variety of tools available, including mapping and visualization tools. Researchers finding and using data are like other library users in that they need the librarian intermediary to assist them. This has led to a wide range of new job titles, such as data management consultant, design data librarian, research data librarian, and scientific data curation specialists, metadata librarian, to name a few. A colleague of mine in the United States named Amy Affelt has written a book called The Accidental Data Scientist, and argues that data science is the provenance of librarians, and talks about many of the people and the work that they are doing, which gave her the inspiration for listing these titles. Providing long-term access requires that libraries develop a data management plan for the entire digital life cycle of the data. And I want to repeat that because it's so important. The entire digital life cycle of the data. This means digital preservation. This management plan must have an emphasis on digital preservation. This also includes such important actions such as the creation of metadata standards so that the data can be used across libraries and across institutions. National libraries are taking the lead in the development of digital preservation tools and methods. ERCIM News Online Edition reports that the digital collections of scientific and memory institutions, many of which are already in the petabyte range, are growing larger every day. The fact that the volume of archived digital content worldwide is increasing geometrically demands that associated preservation activities become more scalable. In other words, big data sets requires scalable digital preservation. The economics of long-term storage and access demand that they become more automated. The present state of the art fails to address the need for scalable, automated solutions for tasks like the characterization of migration of very large volumes of digital content. Standard tools that we have now break down when faced with very large or complex digital objects, such as what exists in these data sets. Standard workflows break down when faced with a very large number of objects or heterogeneous collections. In short, digital preservation is becoming an application area of big data, and big data is itself revealing a number of significant preservation challenges. To solve this problem in Europe, the SCAPE project was launched in the European Union with a number of large data sets from cultural and research institutions, including the State Library of Denmark. In the United States, the Library of Congress, my library, provided leadership in the preservation of data sets as part of the National Digital Stewardship Alliance. The alliance consists of members from, again, academia, industry, and government that were convened by the National Library to advise on content, standards and practices, infrastructure, innovation, and outreach. The work has produced technical guidance of digital format sustainability and federal agency digitization guidelines. In the specific area of data preservation, the library has issued a report entitled Geospatial Data Stewardship Key Online Resources that lists online resources that highlight key concepts and practices supporting the preservation and stewardship of digital geospatial data and information. The resources offer a starting point to methods, tools, and approaches across the information lifecycle to assist in understanding current best practices in the stewardship of geospatial data. These resources will be regularly updated online at the Geospatial Data Stewardship Key Online Resources webpage, which you can find by going to www.loc.gov. Big data also represents some serious challenges to individuals, and helping them with that challenge is another opportunity for libraries. As Henriette Esterhausen, Association of Progressive Communications, who was also one of the Trend Report participants, points out, libraries can be at the forefront of raising user awareness of the risks around the privacy and security of personal information, both in managing their relationship with users and in their wider advocacy work by collaborating with processes and organizations which ask governments and businesses to implement policies which protect privacy and limit the unnecessary exploitation of personal data without explicit consent, both reactively and proactively. Libraries could be promoted as spaces, places, and platforms which represent a safe information environment where users can be confident they are not being monitored, tracked, or profiled through their consumption of information. And that is a role that we have traditionally played. However, what is even more interesting and unique is to look at the big data we have in our libraries and what we are doing with it. Leslie Johnston, in her presentation entitled Cultural Heritage Institutions and Big Data Collections, notes that we have big data in our collections. She offers two case studies from the Library of Congress. The first involves Chronicling America collection. The Chronicling America collection has 5 million page images from historic newspapers with OCR from organizations in 25 states. The site gets approximately 4 million hits per day. Some researchers want to search for stories in historic newspapers. Some researchers want to mine newspaper OCR for trends across time periods and geographic areas. Requests have come in to analyze all 5 million pages. So to facilitate access to this big data file, the library provides free and open access to for all to the APIs for machine access and automated processes, including access to RDF-linked data. The availability of this data has enriched research in many ways as analysts and researchers mine the data to create timelines. Ancestry.com, which is a company in the United States which helps all those many families who want to recreate their family trees and delve deeply into their genealogy, has ingested the data as well and has greatly enhanced the information now available to the users of their site. So when you go to the site, not only do you find your great-grandmother's birth information and maybe the marriage certificate for the family, but if your great-grandmother had been or your great-grandfather had been in the newspaper in that time from that area, you may find that information all in your one search as well. The second is the Twitter archive. In April 2010, the Library of Congress and Twitter signed an agreement providing the library the public tweets from the company's inception through the date of the agreement, an archive of tweets from 2006 through April 2010. Additionally, the library and Twitter agreed that Twitter would provide all public tweets on an ongoing basis under the same terms. Just imagine how much data that is. The library's first objectives were to acquire and preserve the 2006 to 2010 archives, to establish a secure, sustainable process for receiving and preserving a daily, ongoing stream of tweets through the present day, and to create a structure for organizing the entire archive by date. In 2013, the library completed those objectives. To date, the library has an archive of approximately 170 billion tweets. The library's focus now is on confronting and working around the technology challenges to making the archive accessible to researchers and policymakers in a comprehensive, useful way. It is clear that technology to allow for scholarly access to large data sets is lagging behind technology for creating and distributing such data. In a 2013 article in Time magazine, Gail Osterberg, Director for Communications at the library, noted, quote, "Social media gives even those among us who don't have the time to pick up a pen every day an opportunity to be recorders of and witnesses to history. Those perspectives will be incredibly valuable to researchers and authors and policymakers down the road who want to understand the times we're living in today. With data mining tools and techniques, it will be possible to see the spread of ideas and opinions across the country and the world." Another interesting example of libraries making their own big data sets available comes from Harvard University in the United States. In an article published in 2012, the New York Times reported that, quote, "Harvard is making public the information on more than 12 million books, video, audio recordings, images, manuscripts, maps, and more things inside its 73 libraries." One wonders how one university manages 73 libraries. David Weinberger, who was co-director of Harvard's Library Lab, noted, "This is big data for books." The metadata was made available for bulk download and has spurred the creativity of researchers. Weinberger noted that at one-day test run with 25 hackers working with information on 600,000 items, people were able to create visual timelines of when ideas became broadly published. They were also able to create virtual stacks of related volumes and materials garnered from different locations and formats. The possibility of the kind of research that national libraries can support by releasing their data sets are endless. Just think being able to bring all the formats together in one virtual collection for browsing by researchers. Other challenges for cultural heritage institutions like national libraries center on the preservation of local content. National libraries must not let the lure of working to preserve big data distract it from its very important mission of preserving local culture. It must find a way to do both. As Davina Frau-Meeks, professor at the University of Paris, stated in her Trend Report experts paper, cultural institutions are uniquely placed to promote the public interest in the production of indigenous localized cultural content, enhancing the inclusion of users and civil society organizations, and strengthening intercultural dialogue through artistic exchange and artistic expression. In an era of big data, the preservation of local heritage is an imperative for a national library in order for unique culture to survive. Now I want to turn to the Sustainable Development Goals. This is a major current opportunity for national libraries now. It is clear there are many roles for national libraries in the era of big data. However, there is one very important, specific, and immediate challenge for national libraries now. National governments are currently developing the Sustainable Development Goals at the United Nations, and this will be the plan for investing in each country for the next 15 years. Every country will be expected to implement these goals with a national development plan, and each country must be prepared to measure the progress towards the goals and targets with key indicators. Transparency and accountability require that this data be made available to the public. How will governments acquire, manage, make accessible, and preserve this data in an efficient way? There is a role for the National Library. How can libraries play a role in national development? And what is IFLA doing to promote this role for libraries? In 2013, IFLA launched the Lyon Declaration on Access to Information and Development. The declaration recognizes the principle that development seeks to ensure the long-term socioeconomic prosperity and well-being of people everywhere. It states further that the ability of governments, parliamentarians, local authorities, civil society, the private sector, and individuals to make informed decisions is essential to achieving economic and social development. Access to information supports development, and libraries are the trusted institutions that provide access to all. The Declaration states that access to information empowers people, especially marginalized people and those living in poverty. It empowers them to exercise their political and socioeconomic rights, be economically active and productive, learn and apply new skills, enrich cultural identity and expression, participate in decision-making, and address personal development challenges, and measure progress on accountability, transparency, good governance, participation, and empowerment. Almost 600 civil society organizations, including those representing libraries, journalists, internet governance, and online publishers, have signed the declaration. Libraries as partners in national development is our most important role in the age of big data. In March, I presented the Lyon Declaration to the ambassadors during their meeting on the Sustainable Development Goals. I told them we are ready to be their partners in moving their nation forward, and that an investment in libraries is a smart investment with a multiplier effect. Libraries can connect them with stakeholders, provide information, identify local pressing needs, ensure ongoing access to cultural heritage, provide public forums for civil society engagement in decision-making, offer training and acquire, organize, make accessible, and preserve the large data sets needed for key indicators for the goals. In return, however, libraries need sufficient funding, inclusion in policy making, access to diversity of information for patrons, freedom to provide access for all, and the ICT infrastructure required to do this. Big data can reshape the world and save lives. By analyzing it, we can find answers to challenges such as climate change and global epidemics. Economies can be stimulated, innovation can be fostered. But first, intellectual property law must change, and access to technology must be improved, making facts, data, and ideas equally accessible for everyone. On May 7th, IFLA became an original signatory to the Hague Declaration on Knowledge Discovery in the Digital Age. IFLA did this because while libraries have the opportunity to seize the information society and strengthen their roles as agents for sustainable development, they are also continuously faced with challenges on restrictions for content mining. While facts and data are not protected by intellectual property laws, the text, documents, or databases that are mined may well be subject to copyright, related rights, and/or database rights. The extraction and copying of content one already has legal access to, and its transformation into machine-readable format can touch on the right holder's exclusive reproduction right. IFLA is an advocate for copyright reform, and the Hague Declaration echoes our commitment to a fit-for-purpose international copyright framework that provides sufficient protection for creativity and access to information without restricting essential research and development in the public interest. This is your challenge in the era of big data. Your mission is the same, but your approach and tactics are new and evolving all of the time. Libraries, especially national libraries, are finding new ways to meet these challenges every day. The National Library of Korea is committed, quote, to responding to the changes in the modern era. I read this on your website. Libraries make a difference in people's lives. That is our ultimate goal, to make a difference in a person's life, to help each person that comes through our doors, both physical and virtual, to find the information they need to make their lives a little bit better, a little bit more successful than it was the day before. National libraries are especially called upon to provide national leadership. As I look out at the leadership in this room, I am sure the Korean National Library will make every effort to take the lead in Korea to provide the information and knowledge for Korea to reach its national development goals, and that when the library celebrates its 100th anniversary, it will be noted by all that the Korean National Library continues to make a big difference in the lives of the Korean people. Thank you very much.
네, 도나쉬더 차기 회장님의 기조 연설 감사드립니다.